This is going to be a great way to kick off a brand new week of the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller, sponsored by Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales. Have my good buddy, Devin Grouwinkel, you know him from DKG Images, hopping on the show today to talk about everything from his start to the photo that literally changed his life. And also we'll dive into a little ball talk and talk about our Chicago Cubs, his thoughts on the Iowa Cubs as he's doing some work with them as well. But Devin's been a guy who has supported this show, I mean, from its very beginnings to where we weren't even doing full shows. We were just doing quick little social media posts to now where we're getting sponsors, getting more downloads. So, I mean, in the most sincere way, the show really gained some huge help once Devin became part of the team and was allowing us to use his great photos. So happy to have him on the show and want you guys to get familiar with Devin because you'll be seeing his stuff a lot more on our website and show so much on Twitter, social media, all that good stuff. Be sure to follow along on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and keep up to date with all the great news for Drake Athletics as well as anywhere in the national sports world here at the Media Row podcast with me. And have some really cool news. We kind of deep teased it at the start of last week and said we weren't going to say it until now. So want to give that huge news. It involves Kelly's Little Nipper and some good friends of the show, as Kelly's Little Nipper is doing a charity golf outing this Saturday, May 17th at Grandview Golf Course, which I work part-time, and Media Row has their own team. So it'll be led by myself, Carson Kolp, Ross Peterson, who you know from The Rush, and then the head coach of the Drake Bulldog football team, Joe Woodley, is going to be the foursome on the course for the Media Row podcast. We're going to have shirts being made, make us look all professional and pretty on the course, thanks to my amazing girlfriend, Megan, getting that done for us. So really appreciate that. But really excited to share that news with you. All the money from the event goes to the Boys and Girls Club of Central Iowa. So it's a great event with great people. Just another reason that makes Kelly's Little Nipper such a special place. Go check out Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Again, great people, great atmosphere, and even better drinks and food and community, all that good stuff over there at Kelly's Little Nipper. Can't wait. My golf game is awful, but you know what? We're going to have a great time. It's for a great cause. Be sure to follow along on social media. We'll have some fun with Ross, Carson, myself, and Coach. So be sure to follow along this weekend. But without further ado, now is time to welcome, for the first time, not the last time, Devin Grouwinkel to the show. Evan, first off, thank you so much for joining me. You've been someone who's supported the show when there were 2 followers, and you've been so gracious in letting us use your photos. So it's the least I can do is to get you on the show, and I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, man, you bet. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've been seeing, you had Birchie on, you had Carson, all these guys, and I'm just like, he's going to come to me eventually. There's no way he doesn't. And then you reached out. You want to do it? I was like, absolutely. No hesitation. Let's do it. So I'm excited for it, man. Let's do it.
Well, hell, you make the podcast look better. You got to be on it. So
I appreciate that.
Seriously, people come up and they'll bring up photos of like, man, it's looking really professional. I'm like, well, it's mostly Devin, but thank you. But
well, I'm glad, dude. I'm glad that I can help out anyway. I appreciate you wanting to use the photos for one. I like seeing my pictures being used. So anytime you need any pictures, dude, just reach out. I got you.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be annoying the hell out of you. That's why I tell everyone who makes the mistake of coming on this show, like, oh, you've opened up a wormhole. Now I'm going to annoy the hell out of everyone. But when was the first time you were like, okay, I'm going to start pursuing this photography field?
So we got to go all the way back to when I was a senior in high school. It was first semester. I needed to take an elective class to get enough credits to graduate that year. So it was between photos one or Woods class, so it was like shop class. And
Yeah.
I didn't like the shop teacher too much at the time. He was a newer teacher, and I was like, I didn't want to do this. And I was like, photography, like I took the class because I thought it was like it's an easy A. That's honest to God why I took the class. I was like, how hard is it to click a button and take a picture? And so for that class, you had to get you had to have some sort of digital camera. And so I went to my grandma and she had one, like one old one or whatever. And we had to take pictures every week. And on Fridays, we would always like go over like our five best. We couldn't like decolor it or edit it, having black and white. So we did that. That was really fun. And that's really when I ended up falling in love with photography because I knew how to edit somewhat because at the time I had a Dallas Cowboys fan page on Instagram. And
Okay.
so I would edit the pictures that I would steal from Google and I would make them my own. And so I was like, I have an idea on how to edit. Let's incorporate like my own pictures into it. And so then that's when I really like fell in love with like photography, learning like what makes a good picture, learning all about leading lines and all that kind of stuff, compositions, stuff like that. And so then that was really the Kickstarter for me. And I had friends like in that class. So it was like we all just kind of went out, took pictures, did our own thing. And that was really what kickstarted my love for photography.
Were there people that you were starting then to look up to or research or find inspiration from? Because I'm one of those people, once I find something I'm into, like it's all I think about, it's all I'm researching. Like I go in these rabbit holes. And I was wondering if you're the same way, if you were just starting to then just read about all these different photographers, videographers. How did that process go for you?
So in that class, we went over like a couple of really old photographers. Like I'm talking way back in the 1800s, but like I don't remember their names. But the first one, and this guy's not old. He makes YouTube videos of like street photography POVs and stuff. His name's Pierre Lambert. He's a French photographer. He does this for a living. He'll sell his pictures to, like magazines and whatever. He's got his own presets. Like he does it. He makes a living off of street photography. And he was really the first one on YouTube I would watch just to see like what he looked for. Because he always explained like what he looked for in taking a picture. And so then I would go out. At the time, I was still living at home. So I would go out like downtown in my hometown and just take pictures of the river, birds, ducks, whatever. Just buildings that I thought were really cool. That's not like the sports part of it though. If I'm thinking sports, I don't know the guy's how to pronounce the last name. His name's Ben. He's a director of photography for NFL, like Liebenberg or something like that.
Okay.
And then I started getting into I started looking up like Brian Ray for Iowa, Stephen Molly, who I just got to meet at the relays finally. I've been wanting to meet him forever. So it was
What
really
was that
cool.
like? Was that like one of your fanboy moments?
Yeah.
I have
So I
multiple of
sat next
those.
to him. I knew damn well who he was. And like it was like 5 minutes later, I'm sitting there and I was like, I'm thinking to myself this 5 minutes, like, how am I gonna like introduce myself? And so I just looked over and I was like, you're Stephen Molly, like completely acting oblivious, like not knowing who he is. And he was like, yeah, that's me. I shook his hand, introduced myself. So he was one I looked up to. Uh, Another Hawkeye photographer, I don't know how to say his last name either, but his name's Dennis. He has been really, really helpful, like in terms of like asking for advice. The biggest piece of advice he gave me was to like whenever you reach out and you get a no, like someone's like, no, we can't give you credentials. Don't let that like discourage you because every no gets you closer to a yes. I live and die by that because like every time like I've gotten told no by Iowa 1,000 times, but I've gotten told yes by like Nebraska, and I'm just like, okay, let's do this. Like this is fun. So that was always fun, like talking to him, getting an idea of like how he goes about taking pictures of sports. Like what's his kind of like what his routine was, what are some tips and tricks that he's got. And it's really helped me like the photographer I am now, especially in sports, he's really helped me like shape into who I am and just being a good mentor to me. He's not good, a great mentor. He's been amazing. Really good dude. Those are really like the top three guys though that I can think of off the top of my head that have really helped me like and I've really looked up to.
And is it crazy to look back on? Because, like you said, I mean, you were just taking this class to get an easy A or get some credits to graduate. And now here you are, you're diving into it full force. You're getting advice from mentors you look up to, people you didn't even think you'd meet. So is it just kind of crazy to look back on now?
Absolutely, man. Like I think about it more often than not, like because I've had up and coming photographers message me asking me for advice, and I'm just like, dude, I remember being in those shoes like years ago, and here I am now. Because the first guy that ever reached out asked, he's like, hey, you seem like you're pretty familiar with the collegiate level in photographing sports. Like, what's some advice you have to get there? And I'm just, like, that took me aback because I'm like, he's asking me for advice to get to the collegiate level because like I don't when you're photographing collegiate sports, like for me at least, like I don't think like, oh my gosh, I'm photographing collegiate sports. I'm
Hmm.
photographing basketball, football. And I've had those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm standing on the Nebraska football field. Like this is really cool. But no, it's just like, yeah, I think about that a lot about like how far I've come, like where I've gotten to go to shoot. You know, going down to Kansas City for Drake versus Kansas State was really
Yep.
fun. I've got
Not a
to
bad
shoot.
game to shoot either.
It was. We can get into that a little bit, but that was nuts. I've got to shoot a Big 12 football game at Arrowhead Stadium, which was really really cool. Uh, Nebraska versus UNI football. That was another big one. That was such a loud game. That was so much fun. And like just getting to do stuff for Drake, like I don't take any of it for granted, to be honest with you. But you do have that moment of taking it all in, like before or after the event that you shoot. I take it all in because I'm like, I don't take none of this for granted. I thank God for it every day. It's a lot of fun. I'm blessed to be able to do what I do and to be able to help people like you and just for people on Twitter just like reach out. They always love my photos. And so it's just stuff like that that like makes me really grateful to be where I'm at. So yeah.
So you started off, you were talking about how, you're kind of just going out trying to, figure out your craft, what you like to shoot. You're doing nature. Did you start off with nature in like the city buildings and things like that? Or did you go straight to sports? How did that transition work out?
So I started taking pictures on my phone. And this was like I never owned my first like actual camera until like probably a year after I started that class in high school. So my entire time through high school, I just had that little digital camera. And so I took pictures on my phone and that's kind of where I learned like, all right, I'm gonna sharpen my like editing a little bit. And I kind of understood like what makes a good picture. And then yeah, I would go around, I would take pictures of like my car, pictures of my cats, uh, like plants, flowers, stuff like that, with pretty stuff or whatever. And then I had a family friend. Her name was Hannah, and she had a Canon 90D. It was a DSLR, my first ever camera. I ended up selling it though. But that camera got me into like I got on the sidelines of Western Illinois University for their football team. Um, I started so her brother actually races on dirt track racing.
Oh, cool.
So I would get pit passes and I would go photograph with them. That was like my first taste of sports was those two, Western Illinois and doing dirt track racing. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of good got a lot of good times doing that. Saved up some money and bought the lens that I still use till this day. The one I used for basketball, I still
Yep.
have. It's my first ever lens. But yeah, so I would say once I got the DSLR, that's when I started getting into the sports aspect of photography. Whereas beforehand, when it was just like my phone and I had a little Nikon camera, but it wasn't anything for sports. That's what I would use for like my car and my cats, and I would go out and like take pictures of like birds and whatever because the zoom was crazy. It was like 1,000. But yeah, so that's kind of how that went about. And once I got into the sports, dude, I just ran with it. I'm just gonna reach out to all these people, just be like, let's see what I can do. Why not? And the Western Illinois gig was really cool because they didn't have like they had a photographer, but players didn't really like them, like the pictures. And so when I tagged them on mine, they were like, "Can you get to more games?" I was like, "I have to get credentialed for it. It's not that easy."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so there was like a handful of their players went to their head coach and was like, "Hey, can we get this guy credentialed for the rest of our home games?" And that's kind of how I got that game. Uh,
Was that kind of like the first moment where you sat back and went, "Okay, I can start doing this now." Like
that
that
was
was kind
when
of in a way your break.
Yeah, that was when I was like, all right, like I got into it. This is like a D1 football team. Like let's see what we can do here. And I knew it was a great like it was gonna be a good start, but I also like and where I'm gonna say this, but it still applies to today. I'm always looking to like improve. And so when I was doing that for Western Illinois, I was like, all right, this is great, but I'm gonna continue to improve, continue to, get better at what I want to do. because this is what I want to do for a career uh, down the line. But yeah, that was definitely like that. That was one of the moments where it's like, all right, I can take this all in that I'm on a D1 football field, but let's, keep the professionalism here and let's make sure we deliver because they use the pictures. They were like, hey, can we use them? I was like, absolutely. And it was paid. So that was really nice. And I did that for about 2 seasons, only home games. I went to only one away game, two away games. But mostly it was our home games. But that was a lot of fun. That was an experience. And I still talk to one of the players till this day. He was just in this most recent draft, but he wasn't drafted. But he has like his own clothesline, his own clothing brand, and he wants me to do pictures for that. But he lives in Texas, so it's like that's a bit.
Have him pay for the flight.
That's what I told him. I was like, you'd have to help me pay for transportation. So that's something that might be in the works here soon. But no, it was a good experience, and I'm grateful for the athletes because they made it happen. I was only credentialed for one game originally, and then that's when they went to the guys and was like, "Hey, we got to get this guy on the sideline." So I was like, "Let's do it." I was really grateful for those guys, and like I told them, I thanked them a million times. Like it was nuts. They were good dudes. Nice.
Well, I think that's something too I've always respected about your work ethic is sure, maybe you do want to just do sports, but you're willing to do just about anything to as long as you're behind the camera. So bringing up, like the clothes brand, you're
Yeah.
willing to go and do something like that. Have you ever done music, like live music? Have you ever photographed or taken photos for a band locally or anything like that? Because it's funny when I talk to a lot of photographers, it seems like sports or live music is kind of the first ones that is their big break.
Yeah. So back when I was starting, so around the time I was doing the dirt track racing, I had a buddy that I worked with, and he was like getting into like the rap scene, and so he would go to local like festivals that were like inside, like it's like those bars that have stages, and like you can book like a couple of hours to do it. And so he was there. So I did do some music photography, like concert photography, and he used one of my pictures for like his Spotify album cover, and so that was a
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I still talk to him. Coincidentally enough, that guy started doing photography for soccer for our hometown soccer team. So that's really cool. But yeah, I did that. And then if we're on the local front, there's this cover band called the Unfortunate Sons. They were at some I don't know the name. It starts with a J. It's right by Valley High School. It's like some stage that they can go to and you can just perform and people can show up with their lawn chairs and whatever. I went there. It was free admission. I just took pictures of them just because I wanted to get into the music scene a little bit. And I went up to them after their show and I was like, hey, I took these pictures of you guys. I'd love to send them to you. And I did. They don't use them, but it's fine. They're on my Instagram though. And they gave me a free koozie and a free sticker. So that was really cool. But they were super nice. They were really good singers. I'm not going to lie. But that's really all I've done for music. And the main reason why is because for music, it's a lot harder to get a credential because you have to go through the band themselves unless the venue reaches out to you. So I know people that have had venues reach out to them and so they can do it. But I mean, I've kind of stayed away from music just because, I don't really know. I just kind of wanted to crack down on sports, just focus on sports. If the opportunity to do music is there, I'm going to take it. But I'm not necessarily going to reach out just because I got told no so much. And I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I just shouldn't do music. Maybe I should just stick to sports. And that's kind of just what I've done. So if the opportunity is there, I'll do it though. But
And is that kind of the route you want to go? Like, what's the dream job for you?
I want to photograph pro sports for a living, whether it's basketball, football, baseball. I mean, I guess I kind of do. I already photograph pro sports with the Iowa Cubs, but like I would love to shoot an NFL game as a career, probably work for like the NFL, like just photography team. But I would love to be a team photographer. If I had it my way, I would be a photographer for like the Dallas area because I'm a Cowboys fan and I wouldn't mind shooting for the Mavericks. Uh, but like I just want to be a pro sports photographer, whether it's for an organization, whether it's for Getty or AP or something like that, just so I can, because when they say if you do what you love and never work a day in your life, like, yeah, duh, that's obvious. If I got to do that stuff for a living, I would enjoy it, So that's the dream. Obviously, if I could shoot for like the Chicago Cubs, that'd be great. So Tommy Birch, if you know anybody, hook me up, buddy. But that would be really cool if I got to shoot at Wrigley. That'd be a dream. I'm daydreaming just thinking about it.
How did you get involved then with Drake? Because you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I know you were talking about you did stuff for Western Illinois. You'd done multiple teams, but how did you get involved now with Drake?
So when was it? It was not this past basketball season, but prior. So it was DeVries's last year. It was like December of 22. Sorry, December of 2022. I reached out to the SID at the time. It was Danny Frey. I
Yep.
know we were hanging out with him down in St. Louis.
Oh, dude, Danny's the best.
I love Danny. He's a good guy. Danny's the reason I got to do this, and here's why. I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, Danny, I'm Devin. Here, I'm from Muscatine, Iowa. I'm a sports photographer looking to grow my portfolio." And then I this is what got me. So I told him that I was like, "Hey, I've done some stuff for Western Illinois University, and I'm familiar with the collegiate level. Is there any way you can help me get a credential for the remaining Drake home games for basketball?" And when he replied, he was like, "Usually they don't credential freelancers." And he mentioned he was a graduate of Western Illinois.
Yep.
So he was like, "Since you've got experience, I'll get you credentialed." And so that's what started that. He invited me to be part of the team that photographed the relays that year in 2024. So I got to shoot the relays for that year for Drake. And then when he went, I don't remember what school he went to, but he went to some school in Illinois closer to his hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And he made sure, like, he let Dave know, like, hey, just basically gave him my name. And I started chatting with Dave, and I got credentialed for this year. But that was how I got into Drake. It was more of just an opportunity to grow my portfolio locally. And I mean, I knew a little bit of Drake. I just didn't know a lot. And so that was really cool to get to experience those games. First game was their last game against UNI that year at the Knapp Center.
Yep.
Really, really loud, and I got one of my best pictures ever of Tucker DeVries yelling like right in front of me. So that was really cool. That's basically how I got into Drake, and I'm very grateful for Drake. So being able to experience everything I've gotten to experience with them, it's been a blessing, like no short of a blessing. It's been so much fun.
We need to start doing with the guests I have on this show. Like, are you familiar with the 6 Degrees of Bacon game by chance? You've never heard? Okay, this was like a dumb thing I used to do in high school because I'm a big movie guy. Okay. So you can name any actor or actress, and in 6 movies or less, you can connect them to Kevin Bacon. And so, yeah. So we need to start doing 6 Degrees of Danny Fry. With how do we connect this guest to Danny? Because that dude, he was so gracious with everyone. I looked up to Danny so much, and I need to have him on the show too. But
you should. He would love that.
He was great, and so it warms my heart hearing him be like, "Hell yeah, we're gonna get Devin on the sidelines." So, but dude, your work has been amazing at Drake, and one photo that kind of exploded this year, I want to hear how it kind of changed maybe your life in a way, is the Bennett Sturts classic dunk photo that you grabbed from the Missouri Valley. Is that it in the background?
No.
And I've used that photo for so many different like quick TikTok videos on the show. I mean, that thing exploded when you posted it. And I just want to know, was that one that when you snapped it, were you sitting there going, "Oh, this is going to be good"? Or did it take a little bit for it to kind of explode onto the scene?
So when you say explode, let's just put it into perspective. 37,000 views on Twitter. I may or may not have just pulled it up. It's pinned on my Twitter page. So, but yeah, when I took that picture, I looked at it and I remember this is going to sound really stupid, but I don't remember taking that picture. I remember it was a Bennett Sturts. He stole the ball around half court, and then it was a fast break layup or dunk. Sorry, I remember that. But after I picked up my camera, I just kind of blacked out in a way. Like I remember the event. I don't remember taking the picture. I remember afterwards looking at it through my screen on my camera, and I whipped out my phone, took a picture of it through my camera, and sent it to the group chat I'm in with my mom and my sister. And I was like, "Look at this picture I just took. Look at this." And one of the his name's Spencer, I think his last name's Harsh. He was sitting courtside to my left, and this was a timeout. And I like basically shoved my camera in his face. It's like, look at this picture I just took. And yeah, so after that, I mean, the it's so funny how I got to that location. And I think back to this past relays, I spoke with Spencer. He does stuff for Wells Fargo Arena. And a piece of advice he gave me was look to get a different picture. Look for something unique. So like what he meant by that was like when you're sitting on the baseline with all the other photographers and video people, you're all going to essentially get the same picture. So how can I make it to where my picture is different to where people are going to want to buy my picture on top of all their pictures? And so that moment, I was sitting on the left side of the hoop. I was sitting with Matt, video guy for Drake Basketball.
Yep.
And I was over there because Casey was the team photographer for that game. And so he was sitting on where everyone else was. And so I was like, I didn't have a spot. And so I was like, I'm just going to go over there because no one was in the marked team photographer box on the baseline. So I was sitting there. That's how I got that spot. And that's how I got that picture because I saw everyone else's picture from the other side of the dunk, but I got the dunk from the backside. You got bench reaction. You've got Ben McCollum going crazy. You got the Drake fans in the back going crazy. And that picture, when I edited that after the game and I posted I think I was in the media room for about an hour and a half after the game. And by the time I got in my car to drive home from St. Louis, that had probably 10,000 views on Twitter. It blew up. And Glenn and Shannon from KCCI, I was walking out with them of the arena and I showed them. And Glenn tells me, and I quote, there is not a photographer from the AP with a photo that good. And so everyone, it was insane because everybody was just like, this is like the best picture they've ever seen. And yeah, it made me some money. And it was surreal because I'm driving home and I'm getting notification after notification on my phone. And everyone was just like, this is such a good picture. And I'm like, it's just coincidental. It was luck to get that spot, but it was skill to get that shot because it could have been out of focus. It could have been, blurry. I could have had the wrong settings, whatever. But it was luck that I got that spot on the baseline. I'm like
right place, right time.
It's exactly what it was. And that's the thing about being a sports photographer is you can have all the skill in the world, but you got to have a little bit of luck on your side. I think to win, I saw a picture. It was National Photography Day on Instagram. The guy that got the picture of Muhammad Ali like flexing his arm like over his guy who just knocked out. He explained like how he got that picture, and he was like, it was luck, right place, right time. And he pointed out because in that picture, if you looked hard enough, there's a photographer on the other side of the what's it like the boxing ring or whatever the heck. There was a photographer on that side, and that photographer was just wrong place, wrong time. And so that's a big part of photography is being in the right place at the right time. After that, it's up to you to get the shot. And so I was lucky enough to get that shot of Bennett. And yeah, it's made me a couple bucks. And it's on top of my website. Like it's the best. It's not even arguably it is the best picture of my career. Easily.
Because you would always send over, hey, here's the photos I took for the game. Use whatever ones you want. And that one was like the third one that popped up. And I remember sending you a message being like, holy cow, dude, that is incredible. And I remember saying we should get it framed and it needs to be signed by Bennett and you and put in the background of the studio.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I would love to. I've never gotten to sign anything other than Ryan's t-shirt on senior day. He had me sign. He had like me, Carson, a bunch of Drake people sign it. Okay, I think he had you sign it, right?
Yeah. Shirt? Yep.
That's the only thing I've ever signed. So it's like, if you want me to sign a picture, I'll do it.
Did Bennett ever contact you about the photo? Because he had to have seen it.
No, he saw it. Yeah, and he's got it. I gave it to him after that game, and he can do whatever he wants with it. If he wants to post it, he can. If not, no worries, no hard feelings. I don't care. It's fine. But no, he's seen it. He's got it. A bunch of the other guys have seen it. I mean, it was probably the most looked at picture ever in my career. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. So
you were talking about like the Muhammad Ali photo. Have you ever read about, because when you look at those old boxing photos, like the reds and the blues really pop in those photos. Have you ever read about why those photos always pop, those colors?
I've read one article about it. I don't remember it though. It was
So
like when I was first starting.
my brother got me this book, and it was just Who Shot Sports, and it's like this big ESPN. You go through, it's all these famous photos, and they explain the stories behind them. And they have that Muhammad Ali one, and smoking was allowed in all the arenas wherever you went. So the haze of all the tobacco smoke, cigarette smoke, would pop the colors. So as a photographer, when you see that, do you want smoking allowed back into arenas?
I mean, probably not. Just because I feel like I don't know, it would be a hazard. Like, what if someone like has like bad lungs or something? I don't think they should allow smoking in buildings. I mean, back in the
I think
day, they
that's the
didn't
right
care.
answer you should have. I
Yeah,
think
they don't
everyone would
care.
agree. I was
No,
just gonna see if you're like,
I'd be
nah, for the
against it
photo, for the photo.
for the culture. Just get it, take your puff or two and quit. Like, let me just get the cool picture of it. That's funny. No, I remember reading about that, and I didn't remember it was on smoking, but I thought it would be something to do with like their equipment way back when. But no, that's intriguing. That's
Yeah,
funny.
I remember reading that and being amazed that one of the bigger parts of why the colors pop so much in those photos is all
Yeah,
just the haze of smoke. Um, but you're doing really cool things now outside of Drake. You're joining with the Iowa Cubs. I've seen you post on Twitter and Instagram. How's that been going so far?
that's going good. So the Iowa Cubs, it's really cool because I saw a post that they've got like the most talented like minor league team.
Yeah, most
So getting
athletic.
so yeah, and so getting to like photograph like Moises Ballesteros, Owen Casey, all those guys that are really good in that, they can get called up on it, like to the Chicago Cubs. So it's been really cool. I remember my first impression of like any of the players was Kevin Alcantara. And I had my camera up, like the players were walking from the outfield like to the dugout. It was like before the game was starting. And he like pointed at me. He pointed at me and he's got his really cool shades on. And the Iowa Cubs have actually used this picture, but he's pointing at me. After I took the picture, he was like, "Do I look good?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he gave me a high five, and that was really cool. But no, I've had a couple of my pictures being used on their socials, so that's really cool to see. And it's also really cool because after the first game that I did, I tagged Daniel Polinsek. He closed out that game, and I tagged him on Instagram. He followed me back, and so now when he pitches for Chicago, I tell my dad, I was like, "Hey, this guy follows me on Instagram." Just saying, I'm not bragging by any means, but it's cool to see like if I'm watching Daniel or Ethan Roberts is another one, and they're pitching it regularly. I'm like, hey, professional baseball player follows me. So that's another one of those moments that's really cool to like think about and like look back on and be like, hey, this is like if you told me this 10 years ago, I would be doing jumping jacks. Like this is just so cool. So
And as a diehard Cubs fan, that has to add to the excitement
oh yeah,
and the pride you
absolutely.
feel too.
Yeah. And I always make sure that when there's a camera in my hand and a credential around my neck, that like if something cool happens, double play, home run, whatever, I gotta be professional as a photographer.
I will say with the Bennett Sturts dunk, that was one of the hardest times I've ever had to like sit there and not freak out. And I think you and I
Yeah.
made eye contact like, oh damn.
Yeah. No, because I wouldn't have been sitting that far from you. We probably did look at each other. Like I said, I kind of blacked out. So
Yeah.
I remember, but I don't. But yeah, and that's a big thing I've been learning lately is like you got to separate fandom from
Oh
professional.
yeah.
And Michael Admire gave me some good advice on that too. After the Drake game, after the Arch Madness, he gave me a call and gave me some good advice. I'm really appreciative about that. And I've just reached out to like other like Des Moines media members, Tommy Birch being another one. It's like if you got any advice for professionalism, let me know because that's something that like that's another thing I'm always looking to like improve on. It's like how can I be more professional, to where like I'm respected, I guess. And
Yeah.
like I don't necessarily care about being like known amongst every photographer in Des Moines, but I just would like people like if they see me, like, just be like respectful because I just want to be professional. I really do. And
Yeah.
that, like I said, it's been a big part of separating fandom. I definitely go to Iowa Cubs games as a fan. I get into it. I love baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I've always not always, but that I've started to really crack down on myself is becoming more professional in like media and workplace.
I got told just because of now doing a podcast that yeah, it's Drake centered, but I am talking about other things. I did get told by a few people I respect, like, hey, don't wear all Drake gear to, Arch Madness. I was like, okay, I trust you guys. It was one of those like I'm always trying to look more professional
Yeah.
and act more professional too. But no, I'm glad everything with the DKG images is going really well and strong. Hopefully those views continue to get bumped up because I love the work you do and really respect it and appreciate you allowing us to use it. But outside of the camera, how do you feel about our Chicago Cubs? Let's dive into some ball real quick.
So they need to quit playing games on Sundays because they
I would agree.
can't win on Sundays for some odd reason. I don't know why. They quickly broke the Pope curse, because they falsely claimed the Pope as a Cubs fan, and then came out he was a White Sox fan. So yeah, they broke that curse quickly. About 2 days after the new Pope was announced, they won. They beat the Mets, so that's good. But no, dude, this is probably the most fun I've had watching the Cubs team in a while, in a
That
long
is,
time.
I think that's the common phrase everybody's been feeling as a Cubs fan. You're like, we may not win every game, but we're in every game, and it's exciting.
They're competing. They can hit the ball. And like last season, it was the tale of you can hit well and you can't pitch, or you pitch well, you can't hit. This year, they're starting to do both really well. They were I saw the graphic yesterday. In every batting statistic, they were top three. They were first in probably like 5 of the 8 statistics that were shown. They were third in the rest. It was amazing. And I would love for people to quit saying extend Kyle Tucker, because obviously the front office wants to extend Kyle Tucker. It's in Kyle Tucker's ballpark. It's a matter of, does he want to stay in Chicago? The front office is going to open a blank check, and they're going to pay him what he wants. So
You
like,
think so? Even as a Cubs fan, you think so? Because I also, man, the Cubs don't pay a lot of people. The highest paid athletes wearing a Chicago Cubs jersey were Jason Hayward. I think Dansby Swanson. Their contracts were both under $200 million. So that's what worries me. I'm not as confident as you are. If like Cubs are a blank check organization.
well, the only reason I'm confident about that is because I listen to David Kaplan's podcast,
Yeah.
and he talks to the people that are in charge of that decision. So he's had Tom Ricketts on his podcast a couple times, and Ricketts confirmed, he's like, we are aware of what it's going to cost. It's going to be a blank check. That's what Cappy said, and so that's the only reason why I'm confident. Because yeah, I'm with you. They didn't want to sign Bregman to whatever much he wanted, and a lot of Cubs fans are really upset about that, especially now, because if Matt Shaw down in AAA, third base is just atrocious. Like
Yeah, and Turner is in and out just with his age.
Turner, he was so good when he was with the Dodgers, but he needs to get DFA'd in my opinion. But whatever. But no, with Matt Shaw, I think it's worth his poor batting to get that freaking third base situation figured out. Like, come on. He's been doing really well in AAA, and it's only a matter of time before he gets called up. I would be willing to bet he gets called up around Memorial Day weekend, to be honest with you. John Birdie's not the answer. Lopez isn't the answer. It's like, and I think the third base for the Cubs, they lead in like third base errors. I think they've got like 8 or 9. That was another statistic I saw in the broadcast the other day. But, like just back to the team as a whole, it's like, you got Pete Crow Armstrong. Let's talk about him for a second. Doug
PCA.
New York Mets, dude. My goodness. That was a great trade. Looking back on it now, I didn't realize that was the Javi Baez trade when it happened.
Yeah.
I remember the hype when PCA was coming up through like AA and AAA. The hype that he had around him, I was like, dude, this guy's fast. He can run. And I love seeing these tweets from like MLB stats, like Twitter pages. And it's like this ball that PCA caught had like a very low percentage of getting caught just because of how fast he is. He can get under the ball in like just really quick. And it's just amazing to see that we got him. Now, it's a bad thing because you're going to have to extend him too, as well as Kyle Tucker. But if it's done, then this Cubs team is going to be damn good. For
PCA, the only thing that worries me is his bat has been really strong early on this season, but there are moments where like you squint your eyes and it looks like Javi Baez.
Yeah,
where you're
and
like,
a great
oh,
example. The number one thing I think about when you say that is when they were playing, whoever they were playing. It was last week. Team was it, Justin?
the
But
Brewers, are you going to talk about where he hit that home run where it was like a golf swing and you're like, dude, that's not a ball you should be swinging at. You're lucky you got a piece of that one.
not that one. It was an extra. It was an extra innings, and he was trying to play superhero, and they got him on three sweeper pitches, and he swung at every single one of them because he wanted to go yard and he wanted to win the game for the Cubs. And I think that's just something that he's got to focus on is just not being the hero. You know, if you drive in that tying run, then you're still going to be part of the winning story if they win.
Yeah.
You got to trust the guy behind you. You know, and I don't know if it wasn't Tucker because I think this was when PCA was batting third because they went
Mhm.
Hat Tucker PCA. So whoever was after him, you got to trust the guy behind you. That was who it was. I don't remember the opponent. It was recent though. And they ended up losing that game. Whatever, it's fine. But PCA, I hope they can sign him. There's a damn good reason why he turned down their $75 million extension. Because after that, he's just started breaking like crazy. And it's been amazing to watch. I love seeing all the home runs they get. This like the team chemistry is great. My biggest thing with PCA is he's too damn fast. Every time he tries to steal second, he almost slides off the bag. He's so fast. He got so much speed coming in. It's just like, bro, at least dive a little sooner. Like that's what I'm worried about. But he's insane.
Devin, thank you again so much for hopping on the show. Really appreciate it. I'll finish it with this question. It's going to be a cliche photographer question, but
Yeah.
if you could pick any sporting event to shoot, which one would you pick?
Oh boy.
I think it's cliche, but I think it's a good one.
Well, basketball is my favorite sport to photograph because I love being close to the action. But my dream, probably the Super Bowl. And
Okay.
my Dallas Cowboys would win that Super Bowl, which
Okay,
probably is
well,
not going to happen in a while. But that would be the dream to photograph my Dallas Cowboys winning the Super Bowl for the first time in my lifetime. They've never made it past the division round since I've been alive. So I got to see it happen. But yeah, probably Super Bowl would be my biggest one.
well, Devin, thank you again so much. People can catch your stuff at DKG Images. Anywhere else they can go and look at your awesome work?
Yeah, if you just want to open up your web browser, dkgimages.com, that's my website. You can see my best 15 photos I've taken in my whole career. Twitter is DKG Images. My Instagram, DKG.images. Got to get the dot in there.
Okay.
That's where I usually post all my work. So I appreciate you having me on, dude. We got to do this again. Maybe at the end of the Cubs season where we can recap, hopefully what a good season it was or what could have been. We never know. But I appreciate you having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.
I appreciate you coming on and also allowing us to use your great work and make us look even better. So
you bet, man.
huge
Always.
thank
I'm always
you.
happy to help. You bet.
Can't thank Devin enough. A huge thank you for him. He's got a lot on his plate and he made sure to find time and join the show. So really appreciate that. Go check out his website, him on social media, on Twitter at DKG Images. We try to repost and be involved with him as much as possible as he helps us out so much, making us look professional. So go check him out at DKG Images. Before we wrap up today's show, need to give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales. Had some family members in town this weekend, had some car troubles, but with those car troubles, they were able to go to Stevens, where there's been 35 years of family owned and operated here in Iowa at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa, where they were able to really witness and absorb that amazing customer service that you will get every time you walk in at Stevens Automotive. It is a perfect place for just a quick oil change, or if you have mechanical errors like my family had over the weekend, or if you're looking to just get a new car, a perfect place to get that used car for yourself or maybe a family member, a young family member learning to drive. It's my best place to go for anything, car issues, or any advice I need with cars. I turn to Stevens Automotive and Sales over at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. When you go, be sure to tell them that Media Row sent you. More shows Coming up this week, of course, on Wednesday and Friday, we're going to keep the interviews going of all the people that have helped me get to where I'm at, people that inspire me here on the Media Row podcast.